Thank you for joining me on the HAR platform. In today's video, we're going to continue our conversation on the principle of success, and we'll be talking about competence. Every one of us starts off being incompetent and being unaware of our ability and our skills and our knowledge. So every one of us starts off as being unconscious and incompetent. So I'm going to build on the research of Birch, which provides some knowledge around the 4 areas of competence. So everyone starts off with being incompetent and unconscious. And what does that mean? It means that you don't know and you don't know that you don't know. Okay, that's a lot of don't know. But you just want to know that as we all start off, we don't know our ability, we don't know the skills that we have, we don't know how those skills contribute to the bigger picture in our community. So every one of us start off being unaware, being unconscious of our skills and our talents and our ability. And we are not competent. So everyone starts off with being unconscious and being incompetent. And as you grow and as you get some exposures and you get some expertise or you interact with people, they start pointing your attention to some things that you are doing very well that could become an area of your ability. So by the time you start interacting with your community, we begin to identify some of our areas of ability. And that is what moves us forward to the second level of competence, which is now you are conscious, but you're still incompetent. So you know that you don't know. So you know that you don't know, but you're still not skillful in what you know that you don't know. So conscious incompetence means that you have been able to identify that you have some skills, but you are not very skillful. You are not delivering the result, the outcome in a very skillful manner. That is the second level of competence based on Birch research. And then let's move on to the third level of competence, which is when you are now very, very competent because you've been building some experience and you have been gaining some knowledge in that area, and you continue to get better in the outcome and in the result that you deliver in that your area of skills, and you are gaining that competence, but you're still very conscious. Because now you are in that region where you pay attention to all the details, you pay attention to all the system and the structure. Because you are getting to your consistent level, but you still have to practice before you get to that your consistent level. You still have to repeat it before you get to that consistent level. And sometimes you still make some mistake because you are still in that region of conscious competence. Conscious competence means you're still in that region where you're doing a lot of practice, you're doing a lot of giveaway, even in your products, because you still want to test the water. And the fourth level is where you are very, very competent and you're doing it unconsciously. That is when grace comes in. You're doing it easily. You don't even think about it before you do it. You don't even think about how to mix the product together before it comes out and it tastes and it has that consistent taste. So, like I said, this is based on Birch research, and we all start with being unconscious and being incompetent, and then we get to a level that we know our skills. We know what we know about ourselves, about our skills, and about our knowledge, but we are still incompetent in the way we deliver the product, in the way we deliver the outcome. And then we move to the third level, whereby we are now very conscious. We are conscious, we know what we bring to the table. We know the light that we carry. We know the grace that we carry. We know the knowledge and the power that we carry. But even though we know what we carry, that means we're still practicing a lot. We're still repeating that process so that we can bring it to perfection. We are competent, but we are still very, very conscious of the process that yield that result. And then the fourth level, whereby you are unconscious. You know it so well that you do it easily. You're becoming so competent that you are very skillful at it. You are now an expert. Partners and coaches are in this region, whereby they know their results, they know what they bring, they know that they will always get this desirable result if you follow these steps. And in today's video, I'm going to quickly talk about steps to gaining competence. Steps to gaining competence. And the example that I'm going to use is going to be the example of Daniel. So in that Daniel 1, Daniel started off being unaware of what he carries, of the grace, the wisdom that he carries. Because we see in that Daniel 1 that it was the king that tapped him and selected him. So the first step of gaining competence is being able to first identify those talents and your skills and your ability and what you know. Being able to identify those your skills and your talents. And when I say being able to identify it, I'm not saying it like it's easy. It's not going to be easy to be able to identify your skills and your talents. There are some skills and talents that I have today that it's because somebody told me you have skills in this area, you have ability in this area. So we all start being unconscious and unaware of our ability, of our skills. So don't feel bad when somebody tells you, oh, do you know that you have these skills? And you said, I don't think I have it. Because sometimes the community that we are serving can quickly identify the skills and the ability that we have, even before we all could identify it. So for Daniel, he was tapped by the king. Daniel was selected to become those part of, we call them interns that were going to be working with the king. So identify your areas of strength. Identify your areas of strength. That's the first level, because you want to get to that point where you are unconscious, when you know what you know about yourself, when you know your ability, when you know your skills, when you know the level of your knowledge around an area. That is the first step of gaining confidence. You want to know what you know, and you want to know what you don't know. You want to know what you know about your ability and your skill, and you want to know all the areas and the gaps that are missing in your skill. So being able to get to that conscious level is the first step in building your competence, and being able to identify those strengths and weaknesses are what forms that awareness, are what forms that identification of your strengths and your ability. For Daniel, he needed some help. A king tapped him. And for some of us, we might need some help. Our community can be the one to tap us. So when it comes to the community tapping you around your certain skill, how do you know you have a skill or you have ability in a particular area? When people start asking you to do that, that shows that they've seen some knowledge and some ability in that area. When people say thank you when you do that, that is another way to know that you have a skill and an opportunity in this area. When you start getting into trouble for that thing, that is an area of ability. And I know I was talking about Daniel. That was what happened to Joseph. Joseph started off with all these dreams. He had ability to dream and have vision. But that dream and vision was what was continually getting him into trouble with his siblings. So whatever is getting you into trouble, whatever is getting some vibe, is generating vibe on people, that is making them to sometimes want to like you or sometimes want to envy you, that could be a potential area of skill and ability that you could build on, and you can become competent in that area. So identification of your area of skill is the first part. And then the second level is studying. We saw in that Daniel, the Bible made us understand that Daniel understood. Daniel became a man that kept studying around the area of his strength. You want to continue to build around your area of your strength. Every one of us is not perfect. If we are a piece of cloth, we will be marked irregular. But what you want to recognize about yourself is those perfect area. That area where you're regular lies, that area where your strength lies, and that is where you want to continue to build, and you continue to highlight and continue to gain more exposures and more expertise in that area. And that was what Daniel did. He kept studying. There are resources out there for you to study around the area of your strength that you have identified. If you have identified that you have that skills to communicate, there are resources out there, books, videos, some steps on how to become competent in that area. I have so many YouTube that I subscribe to, that I learn about communication, that I learn about how to even create a YouTube content, because I want to become competent in this area. So studying helps us to build our competence. If you want to grow in a particular skill, on your job, in a particular, you want to grow your knowledge, you want to read around that topic. You want to study around that topic. You want to be able to understand the frontier technology that is being used in that topic. If you are an engineer or you are a computer scientist, you want to understand the space of ChatGPT, what is happening in all the artificial intelligence, and you want to understand the frontier knowledge around that topic. And that comes through studying. So the first part that I mentioned is that you want to first identify your skills. You want to identify your knowledge. You want to identify your ability. And those ability, sometimes you know it, but you don't know how or the effect that it generates on others until you serve the public with it, and then they begin to tell you how they think about your product. And sometimes the feedback that you get can be negative, like the case of Joseph. Joseph was getting a negative feedback even though he had that skill. But we saw that with Joseph, he didn't stop there. He continued to build on his strengths. He didn't shut his mouth when he got to the Potiphar's house. He didn't shut his mouth when he got to the prison, because he knew he had that gift of vision, and he continued to build around it. Your area of strength is your area of growth. Your area of strength is your potential area for growth. Your area of strength is your potential area for contribution. So you want to build on your area of strength by first identifying it and then studying around it. Study around it. And when you study around it, reading books help. Watching YouTube videos that are available and are speaking to those topics help. If you want to study around it, buy textbooks around that subject and read it. And sometimes some skills like servicing and providing some service might require sitting under a mentor and learning from them. That was what Paul did. Paul learned from Gamaliel. People sometimes have to sit under people and learn from them, particularly if you have people who are already doing what you are doing. So studying is the second step in gaining competence. So first you want to identify your areas of ability, then you move into studying, and then you start doing it. So when I was talking about the 4 levels of confidence, I started with all of us are unconscious. We don't know what we don't know about ourselves, and we are incompetent. And then we move on to the second level, where now we are conscious, we know what we don't know, but we are still incompetent. But what moves us from that level of becoming competent and becoming conscious comes by doing. Repetition, the power of repeating the process over and over again. Like I said, that is what builds consistency. You are going to have to pay attention. Sometimes you take your notes, you write that process down. You take your notes, you write the outcome down. Because competence means you are able, the ability to be able to deliver a consistent outcome that is successful. A consistent outcome that is successful in an efficient manner. Competence is the ability to deliver a result that is consistent, that is successful, and is efficient. So moving to that level where you get to competence and you know it so well, you can write a book about the topic, and you know it so well, you can teach somebody about the topic, even though you're still struggling yourself, you're still trying to figure it out because you're still in your conscious realm of competence. But because you are doing it, you are able to identify your struggles and you are able to identify your strengths in that area. So by doing, and when I'm talking about by doing, you want to be very, very repetitive and be intentionally repetitive around the doing. You want to intentionally repeat it in such a way it gets to consistent level. So using Daniel as an example, we started off with that Daniel was identified and was selected to be part of the interns that will be working with the king. And we continue to see that Daniel kept studying. And one consistent thing that we saw that Daniel was doing was that he kept studying, and also the daily provision of the meal. Because our diet informs our capacity to think. What we eat affects the way we think. So diet is very, very important. And we saw in that story that there was a daily provision. There was a daily diet for him. He was going over a daily regimen that continued to build his consistent level. So by doing, you continue to do that thing, and then also by serving it. Service. Because when you start off and you start doing that thing and you start practicing around your ability, you might start off giving it out freely. You might be serving the public freely with that gift, with that skill, with that ability. You might even be in a job where you are just getting experience and you are not being paid as much because you are interested in gaining that experience and gaining that exposure and gaining that expertise. When you're starting off in career, the goal is not to pursue money. Because when you pursue money, you can be stuck in a career and you don't become your potential level, because everything is not about money. But when you want to get to your level of competence, you want to continue to gain new exposure. You want to continue to upgrade your expertise. You want to continue to gain new experience. And these all come by doing and by exposing yourself and by serving the public with your gifts and your ability. The video that I'm doing regularly since that I'm sharing with you, it's not something that I've not done before. I have done it. I have served with my church using the video. I have served in my career, sharing videos and teaching people. I remember during the COVID, when we had to shut down the University of Houston, I was teaching a class around applied research for public policy, and I was teaching the standard program part. I had to switch on to using video to teach, and I didn't know that those skills will be useful for what I'm doing now. But where am I going? That doing some service freely is one way of doing, because as you're doing it, you're gaining that expertise, you're gaining that competence, you're becoming better. So moving from being unconscious and incompetent to moving to the level where you are now very conscious and competent comes from first identify your skill, and then first studying around the skills that you want to develop, and then doing with the skills that you want to develop, and then serving with the skills that you want to develop. Now let's move on to the fourth realm. The fourth realm, where you serve the gift and you serve the ability in a way that you are now doing it in an unconscious way. That the results, the process comes naturally to you, that you don't have to overthink it or over practice it or overdo it or over repeat it. You are not so skillful at it that you serve it competently well, with even you being unaware. How did you get to that level? And there are four things that I want to mention that will get you to that level. The first thing is that you want to identify your capacity. Do you have room for more? Do you have room for more? Do you have a room to be able to understand and that topic the more? Is there more to learn in that area? Is there more to expand to in that business? Is there more to expand to leverage on in that research area? Is there a capacity? So you want to see, is there a capacity to grow in that area? And then once you are able to understand your capacity, the next level that you want to understand fully well is your ability. You still want to continue to identify your ability, because there are some ability that you won't identify until we get to a certain age. Yes, until we get to a certain age, there are some ability that you will not understand. The full expression of human is being able to understand ourselves, and that comes with time, because there are some things that may not make sense to you until you reach a certain age. I remember from the case of Joshua, I remember when they were sharing the land in that year, Joshua, I think it was already 80. It was already 80 years, and he was saying that I still have my strength with me. There are some things that comes with age. There are some things that comes with that your experience that you're gaining from it. And then you want to continue to identify the ability that you still have around that area of your competence. That area where you want to gain your competence. And then look around for your resources. The resources that are around you. Sometimes what we are looking for is around, not so far. Sometimes you're thinking, oh, I have to go to school to get this ability. Oh, I have to do this to get this ability. But sometimes the ability might come from taking that certification and reading a lot about that topic. Your ability might come from even sitting under some mentors and they're teaching you, and then by that time the knowledge that they invest into you interact with what you have inside of you, then you are able to generate something new. Ability. And then resources. The resources around you, the resources within you. The resources within you is your capacity, but the resources around you is what tells you the markets and the market's interest in your competence and in your idea and in your products. And the final thing I want to leave you to when it comes to competence and moving from conscious competence to unconscious competence is your purpose. Is your purpose. And sometimes when people are talking about purpose, people take a deep breath. It looks very, very deep. But purpose is embracing yourself and embracing all your weirdo and embracing your community and embracing your passion and embracing your intersectionality and embracing all those crazy ideas that come to your mind. Because moving from conscious to unconscious competence means that you are going to embrace your individual. It means that you're going to, you know your purpose. You know your purpose so well that you know whom you have been called to serve. And you serve it because in your uniqueness, you have identified what you're serving and you are serving it just like that. Henry Ford said that if he had asked the market what they wanted, they would have asked for a faster horses because that was what they were used to. But he gave them a car. When you get into your competence level and get into that conscious level where you're serving it gracefully and you're serving it easily, means that you have been able to get to that level where you know what you bring to the table and you're serving it. You are not trying to gauge what people feels about it or how people perceive it. You know what you bring and you're serving it. And then because you're serving it, you are now operating at the level of the supernatural. That was what happened to Daniel. Daniel got to that point that he was not only getting revelation about what was going on in the king's heart, he was also getting revelation about what would happen years after. In Daniel 7, we started seeing Daniel talking about what will happen at the end of the age. Because he has become so competent that he's getting to that unconscious level. That unconscious level of competence is the unconscious level of righteousness that kicked in for Enoch. That Enoch was walking with God. He was walking with God. He got to a point, he was walking with God so simultaneously that he was doing what God was saying. And then he got to a point that he was not only doing what God was saying, he was doing what God was thinking. So before even God says it, he was already doing it. That is becoming unconscious and competent. He was getting so well in his communion with God that he became so skillful at it. The Bible says he was no more. Because God took him and he was no more. Getting to a conscious is easy. It comes from studying, it comes from doing, it comes from repetition. But getting to that unconscious competence, it comes from embracing every of yourself, every of your individual, every of your weirdo, every of your intersectionality, every of your purpose, every of your resources, every of your capacity, every of your ability. Because you can be this and that. You can be this and that. No, you're not saying this or that. I mean, you can be this and that. You can be an entrepreneur and also be an economist. You can be this and that. You can be a coiffeur and still create a skincare product. You can be this and that. You can be a pastor and still be a farmer. You can be this and that. Getting to that unconscious level of competence is the purpose of human. And I want to encourage you to embrace it all. Because when we get to heaven, and the account of heaven about us is on red because we have not matched up to what the capacity that is within us, we will not be happy with ourselves. Being competent means you're doing it, you're learning around it, and you continue to embrace every of yourself, most importantly, your purpose. Thank you for joining me on the R platform. This is the R platform. Stay safe, stay well, and please remember to subscribe to the newsletter and sign up for the Winter 2024 Table Talk. Stay safe and have a happy holiday.